Hey, I wanted to do a quick video covering a subject that a lot of people are talking about nowadays, and it seems to be affecting everybody to some extent. Um, there's a perception that certain types of people don't experience it, but from everything that I've heard, it's not true. And the title of the video is telling you what it is, so I'll just say it. It's loneliness. And the lack of connection that people feel, but I think even worse than that is their inability to establish new connections. People just don't talk to each other anymore. We're all, I think because we're all kind of busy with our own crap, that we just also assume that other people are busy with their own crap, and therefore they don't want to talk to us because they're doing their own thing. But we know it's not true because most of us don't mind when people talk to us, unless it's a contrived conversation, somebody's trying to sell you something. But outside of that, I mean, I don't mind conversation. I think there's a lot of people who are like called introverted, but they're not. They're just like anxious, you know? I don't know. I never really bought into the whole introvert extrovert thing. I think it's just conditioning. But the reason I wanted to talk about this particular subject is I think it has a origin, and I've had other videos talking about this, and really it's the ego. It's the ego at the end of the day. And you can watch my other videos where I kind of describe this thing that we call the ego. But what I think is this. I think that people are anxious to talk to other people. They're worried about being judged. And so they can't bear, they can't do it. And why? Why do people feel that way? Why do they feel anxious and worried about being judged? It's because more than ever, you have been forced into this box of your image and your ego, and it's called social media. It's antisocial. It does not help you. It doesn't help anybody. It makes people feel like they're being watched 24/7, and so they have to be on their best behavior. You always have to be on. You can't just exist. It's not enough. And when you believe that you're not enough, well, then of course you're not going to step out and take a risk and engage with people because you might not be enough. And oh my goodness, what's going to happen if you're not enough? You're going to get rejected, or somebody's going to say something to you or treat you bad, or you'll have an awkward interaction, or whatever, story you make up in your mind about what could happen. It's the ego protecting itself, and we are more egotistical than ever. And egotistical doesn't mean, you're really into yourself and gung-ho and all bravado. And it really just means you are so protective of your own image, and you've been forced into doing this. Having an ego, having an image, is its own job. It's a job. That's why people feel tired in life. They're not just tired of work. They're tired of having to be somebody. They're tired of having to keep up with the Joneses or present whatever they have to present. And not even that, they're tired of seeing images, because now all you see anymore aren't people. You're seeing the marketing, you're seeing the packaging, the cellophane wrapper. It's like people aren't people anymore. And so if they're not going to be honest in this engagement, then why should you be honest in the engagement? In fact, why even engage at all if all you're going to get is this cellophane person who it's all coming from the mind at the end of the day. And if there wasn't any social media, I don't think it would be this bad. I don't think people felt this way as much in the last few decades. You know, people were happy to go out and engage with other people. You have the concept of third spaces or third places, whatever they're called, places where people go to congregate and talk and interact with each other. And now we just don't really have that unless you want to go to the bar and get drunk. But other than that, when people go out places, when they socialize, they do it with people they already know. Okay? I think that's a new thing as well. People go out with people that they already know, and they do this to protect themselves. It's like this weird safety thing where they don't want to have to engage with strangers. I feel like that's a new thing. You rarely see people who go out by themselves and just, you know, engage the world that way. It's always sort of like this in-group, and that creates its own anxiety because you have to go out with an in-group. You can't just go out by yourself. And if you're out there in the world and everybody else is in that in-group, well, you can't just go join their in-group because now you're going to be judged, and oh, here comes the ego again. And there's all these forces at play that are all just, they're BS. They're BS. They're all BS. 100%. And this is how we live. This is our life. We live under the totalitarianism of BS. And keeping up this image of always having to be on 24/7 is going to make people lonely because they don't want to engage. They don't want to deal with the judgment. They don't want to have to put on the face all the time. We're not actors. Even actors don't act. They act. It's a job. Acting is a job. People get paid. Brad Pitt does not go do a film without getting paid a very fat check. And yet everybody else is expected to act in their life, in their workplace, in every aspect. In polite society, you have to act. Otherwise, you're going to be judged somehow. Or you feel like you're going to be judged. So you're doing a job full time, and that's why your life is burnt out, your relationships are burnt out, you don't have any, and you're probably burnt out at work too, because now you have to double down on that image. Not only do you have to package yourself, you have to repackage yourself into the company man or the company woman, and you have to watch what you say, and you have to engage in a way that's friendly to everybody. It's tiresome. It's tiresome. The ego will drain your energy. The ego will completely drain your energy. It takes all of your energy to keep this thing going. And if you could get rid of it, and I say that like it's easy, you can just stop. It's not that simple, but it's also not that complicated. That's a whole other subject. But if you could strip back this false sense of security that you have about yourself, what would that do for you? What would that look like? If you're not worried about being judged or having to be on all the time, would you worry about wanting to talk to somebody that's standing over there staring at the carrots or something? Would you be worried about, talking to somebody at the gym? Oh, they've got their headphones on. Better not interrupt them. Everybody's in their own world, protecting their image, protecting their ego. Better not interrupt them. Better let them do their job. If people could peel that back and have honest engagements, we wouldn't be so drained and we wouldn't be so lonely, and we would actually have these communities, And I think we're starting to see communities kind of form, and it depends, which parts of social media you're on. But my dream really is to have sort of third places come back, but they're part of these sorts of like interest groups. And people do this now. I mean, you have like Comic-Con and, conventions and this kind of stuff, but I think there has to be something more for like-minded people to just connect, but in such a way that we're both, like, if you and me are talking, we both understand that there is this thing that people are protecting, and we are leaving it at the door, and we are making an assumption about each other that we're not going to do that. And if we feel it coming, we'll be vocal about it. We'll just be honest, be like, I think I'm being less than myself right now. Just that kind of openness that is lacking. It's certainly lacking on social media, and in the ways that it's communicated on social media, I think there's also a lot of trauma dumping. And so it's hard to say if that is like, letting go of the ego, because I think that part of that could be for attention. And I don't think you should ever really trauma dump like that. You should never release your feelings to strangers, particularly to people who are holding on to their ego, because those are the ones who are going to judge you really harshly, and they're just not going to care about your feelings because they don't even care about their own feelings. If they did, they would drop the facade. And once you drop the facade, it allows you to actually feel other people and not just call yourself an empath. Like, you actually can relate to people and give them their space, or step in and be like, I don't think you need space right now. I think you live in space, and I think you need to come back to the community. And there needs to be a community, but there really isn't one. So that's a long rant on loneliness, and I think it stems from the ego, and it stems from having to be on all the time, and our society, which has built itself on top of the ego. And this is a very fragile foundation, and we are watching it. More and more people are complaining about the state of their lives and their inner life, and it's a house of cards, and we're going to see more and more of this. And it could be a good thing. It might be a good thing that more and more people, it could be a good thing that more and more people are feeling the pain of having an ego, because if you don't really feel the pain, pain is something that causes you to do things differently next time. That's what it's there for. It's a sensory mechanism. And I think if we can come to the understanding and feel the pain of having an ego and be conscious of that, that we can actually be conscious of trying to find a solution to this particular issue, because it is all encompassing. It is the source of a lot of problems. It might even be the source of all the problems. My brain isn't powerful enough to make that call, but I will say that a lot of the issues that you, in particular, whoever's watching this, are having, are probably going to be ego oriented. Thanks for watching.